Hey guys, welcome back to Trekyards. I'm Captain Foley.
And I'm Connor Coons, and welcome back to another bit of weekly Discovery discussion.
Right? Yes, absolutely. We're going to discover some discovery.
Wow,
That joke
that joke.
is getting old, eh? It's
I was gonna say
getting,
never gets old, but
oh, well, it's getting kind of worn. There it is. There's the discovery. Today we're going to be talking about discovery and whether the fan reaction to the ship itself is actually justified. Well, I mean, we basically know the aesthetic of this era. Even we got even pre, we got the NX era, we got the TOS era, so this is in between. We got a rough understanding of the ships that were there, even in non-canon and side canon stuff like the books with the Daedalus class and things like that. If you take Starfleet Battles and Fast and throw it out the window, which you kind of have to do, we still kind of know where the ships look, how they look, and where they should fit in. This one, in my opinion, looks way too advanced, way too next level as far as design goes, especially with the nacelles. That's one of the main complaints, is that it just looks too sleek for the time. And yeah, that's the main one. And overall, the size of it for what it is. It's not a heavy cruiser per se. It's a science vessel. So been a lot of debate about the size as well.
So is that the majority of the negative comments then? I mean, is that what you've picked up from the audience? It really is just the size and the nacelles.
Well, and just the overall sleekness of the design, the overall aesthetics of it, and the interiors as well. The computers, the holographic displays, it just none of it fits into the established timeline look. Even going back as far as Enterprise, just it doesn't follow that flow all the way up. That's what I get out of it anyway.
Yeah, well, the positive reaction, obviously, as with anything, we all have personal preference. A lot of people have, always come out to us and say, "Oh, I love the JJ Prize." So a lot of it is just personal preference, and obviously the lovers of the designs say, the fact is, for them and for the people that are for it, this is a design in 2017, I suppose, but shown in 2018. It's a design that has to reflect a more modern time, and as such, it does look more modern. It has elements that have been taken from other eras, which are obviously more advanced, but they need to be there because it gives you, we've learned lessons. You need to have lit pylon bits and lit engines and all these things, because that gives, we've learned those lessons that they add to the ship's advancement over the course of these last 40 years of Trek. So it's something you do, and why should it look like anything of the era? Because it's not like anything of the era. It's both after TOS in terms of the building of the designs, because it's after the TOS Enterprise, and it's a specific one-off science ship, so why would it look anything like the other ones? And so when you take those into account, the positive people say, well, it works aesthetically, it should look different, should look more advanced. Obviously, as we had said also originally, a form does follow a function. There's a reason for this, and I don't like when people say, oh, it's too flimsy. It's like, no, it's space travel from the future. You can bend space. Of course, you can build materials that are strong enough to hold that. Of course you can. What do you mean? That's silly. And the engines, I mean, they don't care. I don't think any of the lovers of the design care about the length of the engines, because it's just what it is. It's not as necessarily aesthetically bad. It's just misproportioned. But if if it is its own thing, it kind of flows with the design. It does give it a certain glide. And at the end of the day, the 60s designs shouldn't be used in the 2000s or 2010s because they're 60s and they don't hold up. And why would you use 60 things? And even with the Star Wars stuff, they had to make updates. Not a lot of updates, but enough. And again, that was a movie with high budget. That's the positive reaction from the fan base. So it's interesting, the two perspectives, very polar opposite actually.
Well, actually, on to the last thing you said, it's redesigned for the sake of redesign because it's a new era of production and visuals. So they didn't do what the other series have done, which has stayed true to that 1960s look, and it looked good on screen in Enterprise and things like that. So
but it looked good to a old person.
No, you even admitted yourself that the Defiant and
No, I know,
Very
but
Darkly.
I know that's what people say.
We can't take ourselves completely out of this conversation.
Well, I'm just responding as the opposite side would. I mean, we have such a bias,
I know, but you're wrong though. That's the thing.
Am I wrong or are they wrong for saying? Okay.
Yes. So it's just redesigned for the sake of redesign, and the fact that Brian Fuller didn't like round nacelles or cylindrical nacelles. So those are automatically out of the question, even though that is the aesthetic for this period. I mean,
Yeah.
it is like you said, built after the cage version of the Enterprise, so it is newer. So it's kind
Mhm.
of that one more step towards the refit design, which again
Mhm.
lost the cylindrical nacelles. So there is
Mhm.
justification for that. But when it was built, I don't think that that was necessarily a thing that should be. So a lot of it, and this is one of the major complaints, is that it's redesigned for the sake of redesign because it's just a newer show. When you can make the old stuff look modern and feel better with better lighting, and it holds up in a lot of people's opinions.
But why limit yourself to the old stuff? Is what they're saying. It's why limit yourself? Why not start fresh? Because it's not meant to be a Star Trek that is a Star Trek links into the old. It's meant to be a new push forward.
It's a
You
period
know,
piece,
but
as
this one
Star Trekster
isn't.
says.
But this
Oh,
one isn't.
it is though,
No, but
because
this one isn't.
but this one
That's the
is because they
point.
said it was prime timeline, so that's the
That
point.
doesn't make it a period piece, though. It's the Discovery next show
But then why does the Enterprise not look the same when we see the Enterprise?
because it's not a period piece. It's the Discovery's show.
That's not a valid argument then.
Well, it is. It's a show
No,
that's
not
not
if it's in
designed,
prime timeline. I'm sorry.
but it's a show that's not designed to be watched with the other shows. It's a new show for new audience that goes forward.
And yet the
You
people
you
watching it aren't a new audience overall. It's the old
but
Trekkies that are
they're
complaining.
exactly, and they don't care as much because they want new people. Because if a new person watched this show, it would hold up. Then if they can get new people, then they've won. And especially since new people, younger people more like to be able to pay. Well, younger as in 20s, whatever, are more likely to be able to pay to do the services. And if you can harness the those audiences, then you've got enough to make it. And the fact is, if you can then modernize it to a point and get people used to it, then you can keep modernizing beyond the modernization and make a future-looking show that keeps going future. And so they're allowing themselves to give themselves 7 years of ever increasing modernization technology, which obviously doesn't fit in, but it's not trying to fit in.
Well, I just
That was
hope that in
clear from
50
day one.
just hope in 50 years they go back and visit Discovery and redesign it. So all these millennials that are complaining that the old stuff doesn't matter can then themselves complain and understand how it feels to not have something look the way it's supposed to look, and has followed from every other series that's visited this era.
Well,
has kept true to the form.
that's a wonderful little conceit there, because if slash when slash that they are retconning everything, all it would take is 3 years from now this is cancelled, had its run, move on. 5 years later, another show comes out. They want to do anthology. They want to do Discovery era because the guys in charge actually like the original stuff, and they retcon back all the tech to look like it should. And they say, nah, Discovery was the weird 2018 version. This is actually how Discovery looked. Because I mean that's the thing. If you can re-retcon all the art design to be as you want, then the next show could re-retcon this out, and it wouldn't make any difference. When the universe isn't a flowing narrative, you can just re-retcon. Who cares? It's only about making money at that point, because it's a show that is only designed to be a show to make the money of the show. It's not meant to fit. It's not meant to fit like a glove. It's not meant to add to the tapestry. It's meant to be its own tapestry that links into everything else, but be its own thing. That's like adding, it's like giving Kirk a wife 5 years before Cage. It's like you shouldn't really do that. It's not that you couldn't, it's just that you shouldn't. And us giving Spock a sister is a really huge thing, but it wasn't really, was reasonably poorly done in the first season. But
I think we're kind of stepping away from our original topic, though. The ship itself.
Yes. Well, yeah. The ship is a summary of the show, though.
True.
But how much of what I said as the fan positive stuff, how much of that is valid as is the topic name? Is the fan reactions of that, the people that are positive, how much of that is justifiably you buy, even if you don't agree with it, you buy it because it's just it does make sense in the context of
all of it. I see their side of the argument. I really do, and I get it. I do like the reimagined Enterprise. I do like the newer look.
But that was done a year later when they had not Brian's direction.
I know,
so you don't
but
need to think.
I'm just
You don't
saying,
need to think about that.
Even seeing Discovery, I mean, the Discovery Alpha we saw, for me, fit in perfectly with that time period, and it didn't have the round nacelles.
It's like a
Exactly.
We made it fit. We spent a long time to make that one fit, and it
That
kind
would
of
have
did.
worked for me. You know what I mean? There was enough tie-ins, and I understand the points that the people pro are making. I do get it, but as I've said, I mean, with the position we're in, them telling us that it's a prime timeline piece. We didn't expect this, the visual reboot. It makes sense for the time that we're making it in. It makes sense to update things and, get rid of that 60s aesthetic. I understand all that. I do get it. And all they would have had to say was, we're just visually rebooting it, but it's still the prime timeline.
But then obviously Brian did say that at the start. We were updating elements like Andorians and stuff.
Yes, I guess
They just couldn't say. They just, again, once they say that, they'll, that's bad marketing. It's true marketing, but it's bad marketing. So they'll lose people, even though they've already lost them.
I just wish now they would admit, they're still saying they're going to tie it visually into TOS by the end of the thing. I don't think they will. There's no way they can. So
they can say whatever they want.
Stop saying that is our argument.
Yeah.
Just admit that, okay, this from here on, this is the way it's going to look. And as an old guy, our Star
it's
Trek
not even old. That's the thing. Like people like B.J. Trimble and those guys actually were old enough at the show's inception to put the money and time into get us more seasons in a movie. Those guys, the old people, and they're the reason we have a show. People like you are not. You're the young people that saw it, after the fact and fell in love with the later stuff. No, you're the mid-generation. That's one of the weird things. This show is so not old that the young people are not old that saw it, and the old people that are old that kept it going are still sane,
Yeah.
But no, I mean, it's a prime 2018 show, and Discovery reflects that. It's clearly Star Trek. It's clearly, you couldn't mistake this for any other show. Its color palette links to the J.J. Abrams films, which people recognize more. The Kelvin and such. So it links into that stuff. We know there's licensing problems somewhere, somehow, otherwise it would look close, and Brian obviously wanted something else. So again, it's a different vision. But why can't you have 2018 Prime? Because it's a TV show, It's like, like parallels in TNG. Every ship is its own thing. They could all be, most of them could be prime timelines with one slight tweak.
Yeah.
Or, why is that so wrong? And I have an answer for that. Very quick answer. But do you answer that? Why is 2018 version of Prime wrong? Well, this is just Prime, but it's just modernized Prime.
So what's my answer?
Yeah. People say that. It's just 2018 modernized Prime.
Yeah, and I don't really have an issue with that as long as they don't hold true to the statements that they're going to have a TOS aesthetic by the end of it, because they're not. They're just simply not. So I understand that it's modernized television, modernizing the 60s look for a more modern audience. I get all of that. I do understand the side of the argument, but then just say that and then we'll be fine. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and the real problem with 2018 modernized Prime is that if you can do that, but when you start saying this overrides that, or this actually look like that, and you've got to then force fit everything into the history books, it starts damaging the Trek universe. Whereas if you don't link it in, it can be whatever it wants,
Mm-hmm.
Updated Prime that is its own thing. Like, I don't like Memory Alpha saying, "Oh, there's actually this, this ship that had this sort of transporter at this part of the era." It's like, no, there wasn't. No, it didn't look like this. It wasn't. It doesn't fit in. So just like let it be its own thing. That's why in retrospect we all like it was better for the JJ stuff because it could do its own thing. It could all not make sense, but it was meant to make sense.
Yeah.
Alternate universes is a big thing of Trek, and it would be nice if they kept to that. But yeah, I mean, it's tricky because I think that to be in the middle, just a different team with the same brief, but a brief given by a different team up high. Say take this like they basically did with the New Enterprise. Take this Constitution class bridge, make it 20% bigger to fit more camera moves. Okay, it's a bigger ship, fine, and replace all the buttons with touchpads, okay, and change the color palette to more self-illumination, and make some of the curves more curvy. Like take this design but do that to it. That's how I think they should approach these things, rather than say, this is what it looked like. You imagine a basketball court with a rubbish bin at the top. Or sketch of the original Connie go.
Yeah.
Swoop.
Well, we've said that all along. I mean, you can visually update things to make them look more modern and still retain that original look and feel. And they did that with the exterior of the Enterprise. Whether they'll do that with the interior is yet to be seen, but I think that is a good retreatment of the show. And if you're going to do that, just let us know ahead of time that yes, that's the plan, and we're like, okay, cool. This is a new modernized look at Trek. I can still visualize the old Enterprise in my head if I want to, but don't tell me that that's the ship that exists in that time period when it's visually not.
Although it's interesting because we didn't see a Connie after Into Mirror Darkly, but we saw the Prime Timeline canon Kelvin, which was much, much bigger, and that was obviously pre-Kirk. So Discovery fits into the more modern Prime, fits into the late 2010s Prime.
Yeah.
Rather than the 1960s, 70s, 80s, 90s, early 2000s Prime. Mm-hmm. So it really is just a continuation of where they were going, which fits into designers wanting and needing bigger ships, because the universes need bigger ships. It's like seeing Star Wars Episode 8, you know. Star Destroyer is big, Superstar Destroyer is the biggest. Oh, boom, they got the bigger one in the New Universe movies, and then the huge one that Snoke had, because why not?
And I think that's one of the other main complaints, is that this whole series seems to follow more of a JJ or Kelvin-verse aesthetic when it's
modern.
When they've said that it's not that. Clearly it's not. So I think that's one of the major complaints as well, that it does fit in perfectly with the JJ verse. It really does.
Although, again, it makes you appreciate how close like their uniforms were, and the bridge was closer. Just take away the lens flare and the whiteness, you know. So again, it's
and the barcode scanners, yeah.
The brief was obviously different. You know, that was rebooting the universe to look the same, but modernized. But it was a reboot. But you know what I mean? It was rebooting this look. Discovery is we're doing our own look, but it's even more meant to be connected.
Yeah, exactly.
Like the bridge, if you relit it and change the monitors, it wouldn't even be a Trek bridge.
Yeah. That's one of the main complaints.
And it's funny, if you made this saucer a point, it wouldn't be a Star Trek ship.
Because you could shovel head it and make it look like one of Rick's designs, and it would be fine.
But I mean, like if you gave it like a Star Destroyer, like a double point.
Oh, yeah.
Then the way these are built, the way this is built, it wouldn't be a Star Trek ship anymore. Because this is not. None of these shapes correspond to anything in Trek.
Except Klingon. That secondary hull looks like a Klingon D7 original Klingon D7 hull.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, the new one as well. That's a point as well.
Well, maybe that's why they got changes to the Klingon ships, because they didn't want to say, "Hey, those two ships look alike. They can't fight each other. They're the same." No.
Oh, the retcons.
Anyway, we're getting off topic.
But now both of our points can be argued.
Yep, absolutely.
And both by all the generations can argue any of the points, because either you want to see the originals because that's how it should look, or you want to see updated because that's how it could look, or you want to see a meld because that's how it, with sensibility, being sensitive to the subject matter, should look, or historical drama, or just updated for 2018 visuals. But is the fan reaction justified?
No, there's a lot of people spewing hate for hate's sake, as Khan would say. Yeah. And there's a lot of that we see in the comments section, a lot of bleep, 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 bleeps, and that's not necessary. It's people attacking people. It's not people focusing on what they're talking about. And that's where the fan reaction falls apart for me, is this faceless thing that we call the internet. You're behind a keyboard. There's no one else in the room. You can be anybody you want to be and can be a complete
bleep.
Dickhead, yeah. It doesn't affect you. And you can troll people and you can rile them up. And people on the other end who are, maybe a little more sensitive or suffer from depression or anxiety really get affected by that. So that's where the fan reaction falls apart for me. And I've said it many times. My favorite thing about Star Trek is the fan community. My least favorite thing about Star Trek is the fan community.
Yeah, I was about to say it's a weird thing people can get so invested, but we do a show I've done for 3 years. But we look at it in a pure aesthetic way with personal opinions, but we go around that as well and look at the pros and cons and stuff. But I think what it boils down to is the production mislabeling and trying to cover every contingency, but they're mutually exclusive. And so fans can, it's like with the TIC insignia, right? being both Enterprise and not Enterprise, it's canon both ways. There's memos saying both ways. So you can argue fully right both ways. Discovery, you can argue justifiably, it is Prime, they say it is, but it clearly isn't Prime because it's reboot. As in rebooted looks, obviously, because obviously it is. Like, both are completely right. Whereas the JJ films, we could argue that about the Kelvin, because the Kelvin isn't right for where it is, blah, blah, blah. But they were very clear about the after stuff. You know, things like Franklin, okay, again, tricky, but we can sort of make that work 'cause a little bit closer out of luck more than anything else. But it's a situation where both people can argue sort of correctly. And obviously, if you think / feel you're right, you go beyond that, and it's sad because this is, you know, me and my dad talked about Stargate recently, about how Stargate fans, Star Trek fans are different. Well, the real difference is that Star Trek fans, all of us have had it since before we were born. In a sense, like, it's been a thing in the world for for 50 years, for people up to 50, it's been in their lives. Theoretically, could have been the entire time. You know, Stargate, it's not. It's only 10 years. All of us were either young adults, older adults, older. You know, no one was a. You know what I mean? There's a certain range there that you have with Trek, and so there's generations of people have had kids that have shown. It's a lifestyle choice as well, some of it, you know. I'm certainly a better person because I conform to the ideals and want those good things. And so when you have such a coherent universe and people that have, you know, Mike and Nakuda could have, you know, 20 years of career has been, you know, being the experts on it, you know, that's been their job. And so to then almost seemingly unthinkingly go against that, even though obviously they have meetings and meetings, but if the one guy in charge says, nah, we'll do this, all it takes is the one wrong guy in charge. Whereas, you know, this is the first show without a Gene Roddenberry connection. You know, TNG had Brandon Braga and stuff who worked directly with Gene, and then they kept that legacy going because they knew Gene personally, knew his vibe. This is meant to be different. This feels different, you know. So it's hard not to get impassioned, you know, and it would be nice if all the producers have to do is say this is a third universe, enjoy it for what it is.
Yes, exactly.
It's very simple, and then we could then weirdly look at the designs as like look what they did this week, you know.
Yeah, instead of having to compare it to what came before.
And people complain at us for comparing, saying obviously it's not. It was like, yeah, but obviously it is because they're telling us it is. You can't have it both ways. If it's Prime, the D7 looks like a D7. If it's not, then it doesn't. But you can't do both, because do I? You know, if we actually be really funny when we start getting fan models made. It'd be great to do like a video comparing the ships of something, and then just throw it and replace the D7 with the Discovery D7, and like just not even talk about it in the episode. Say, oh, and here's a scale comparison with all these ships of this era, and just not even mention that. Well, that's also a canon D7 of the correct era. And it's like, well, which one do we go with? The canon or the canon? The Prime or the Prime? The one that was in 7 or 8 times, or one that was in once?
Yeah.
What do we go with here, guys? How do we? Then there's retcon, obviously, if it's a different D7, but it's like, yeah, but why make it hard for yourselves, you know?
Call it the D7A, you know.
Yeah.
But anyway, guys, I think that's it for this discussion. I can see both sides of the argument. Most rational people can, and they will, you know, take the other person's view into consideration. So let me know your or let us know your comments down below. What do you think? Is it justified? Is it not? This design, this look of this era? Let us know in the comments section.
The fan reaction is justified, but the aggression isn't.
Yes, exactly. You know? Yep. There's no need to be a dick.
Yeah. Well, you can win things with honey, not vinegar. You can, you know, make people happy with a feather, not a gun. I don't know what that's trying to be, but you know what I mean. You know, be positive. Be, you know.
That's right.
Just section it off in your own mind as being there's its own side thing. So if enough of us do that, then it might become true, and that'd be good for all of us.
So click the like button or the dislike button if you don't like the points that were brought up, which is going to be an interesting divide in this one. And click the subscribe button to see more discussions like this and many more things. We've done a whole ton of past episodes on ships and things. So check those all out, and we look forward to getting the notification icon clicked too, because that helps us.
And if you want to support this show and all the stuff we do about everything in the Trekverse, you can do a one-time donation at trekyards.com. Click that big, shiny donate button, or a regular donation on Patreon. Just search Patreon Trekyards and help us out a little bit each and every month. All goes towards how we make this show and the ability to make more and more and more and more of it.
Or click the link below, because there's a Patreon link's in the description. That's the thing. It makes it easier for you guys. So until next time, I'm Captain Foley.
And I'm Commander Kungs.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.